Okay, so I'm going to read from The House of Evil again, page 79. This is um, about the day before Sylvia died. So, or the day of. She was lying, she, that is Sylvia. She was lying on the floor of the basement when Paula came home from her new job at a downtown cafeteria. Sylvia just lay there moaning, mumbling. She tried to recite her ABCs, but could not get past D. A, B, C, D, and over again. Gertrude was shouting at her to clean herself up. She had moved her bowels. If you don't get up, Paula said, I will give you a broad jump. Other children gathered in the basement. Jenny had arrived home shortly after 3:30. Ricky Hobbs stopped in to say hello. He was still in his school clothes. Sylvia managed to look around and point at Hobbs and Mrs. Wright. You're Ricky, she drawled, and you're Gertie. Shut up, Gertrude snapped. You know who I am. All my teeth feel loose, Sylvia said. She had a rotten pear in her hand, but was having trouble biting into it. Don't you remember, Sylvia? Jenny asked. Your front tooth was knocked out when you were 7. Sylvia collapsed on the floor near the steps. Infuriated, Gertrude stepped on the girl's face, first one foot, then the other, and just stood there a moment. Jenny had hoped to earn some money that afternoon, and shortly she left the house with a rake. She was never to see her sister and companion alive again. Marie had stopped down in the basement. Hi, Sylvia, she said quietly, waving her hand slightly. Sylvia's hand moved slightly, and she tried to say something, but it appeared to be too much effort. Marie left with Jenny. You faker, Gertrude shouted at Sylvia. Clean yourself up. At Gertrude's request, Randy Lepper had brought over his parents' garden hose so that Gertrude could clean out the basement, as he understood it. When he reached the bottom of the step, he saw Johnny turning the hose on Sylvia, laughing. Someone had covered the girl's body with Tren detergent to aid in the cleansing. Gertrude, who had climbed the basement steps back to the kitchen, saw that Stephanie was home now and explained that Sylvia had had an accident in her shorts. She said she asked Stephanie to wash Sylvia. It was about 5 p.m. Stephanie dropped her books, trotted down the stairs, and saw her brother already washing Sylvia with the hose. Sylvia, half lying, half sitting, was mumbling something incoherent. Turn off that hose, Stephanie instructed her brother. She intended to carry Sylvia upstairs for a bath, but found her too heavy. Stephanie, worried, began to cry. Ricky Hobbs had done his homework, changed clothes, and eaten dinner, and he was on his way back to the Benichevsky house He was a little curious about Sylvia. When he opened the Benichevsky's back door, he walked in about 5:30. He slipped down the basement stairs. Gertrude was slumped against the wall, crying. Stephanie cuddling Sylvia, was crying too. "What's the matter?" the boy asked. Stephanie said she thought Sylvia might be dead, but Hobbs detected short, labored breath from Sylvia and, with Stephanie's help, managed to drag the girl up to the kitchen. Her skin was cold, and someone wrapped her in a blanket. Hobbs thought she was having extreme trouble breathing and began to apply pressure respiration. Stephanie ran upstairs to turn on the water for a warm bath. Soon Johnny, who had finished hosing off the basement floor, called from upstairs that the bath was ready. Stephanie grabbed Sylvia's feet and Hobbs grabbed her under the arms. They started up the stairs. Near the top, Sylvia's wet, slippery body fell from Hobbs' grasp and her head banged on the steps. Gertrude followed them upstairs. "She's faking," she repeated. "She'll be all right." But when Stephanie began to undress Sylvia for the bath, Gertrude ordered them to dump Sylvia in the tub with her clothes on. "Hurry," she said. Sylvia managed to groan. "I wish my daddy was here," she moaned faintly. After the bath, Ricky and Stephanie dried Sylvia and dressed her in warmer clothes, a sweater and pedal pushers. They laid her on the mattress in the bedroom. Gertrude followed them into the bedroom, shouting frantically, "Faker! Faker!" She picked up a book and slapped Sylvia hard on the side of the head. Hobbs practically pushed the hysterical Mrs. Wright down the stairs. Shirley brought up some hot tea and asked how Sylvia was doing. "Oh, she'll be all right," Stephanie assured, but she had already suggested to Ricky to call a doctor. Stephanie raised Sylvia's head and brushed the girl's hair back. She seemed to revive somewhat. "Oh, take me home, Stephanie," she pleaded. Suddenly, she stopped breathing. Hobbs came back in and put his ear to her chest, listening for a heartbeat. "Do you know how to give mouth-to-mouth respiration?" he asked Stephanie. "Yes," she said. "Okay, give it to her," Hobbs said. Gertrude wandered back into the room, screaming. "Stop screaming and get out," Stephanie ordered. She began mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and Sylvia began breathing once more. Stephanie understood that Ricky had gone to call the police instead of a doctor, and she was hoping they would get there soon with mechanical resuscitator. She still was expecting police to revive Sylvia when they rushed into the room, but to her dismay, they did nothing. Sylvia was dead.